Morning, welcome to the TCOLE Commission meeting for June of 2026. If you would please stand for the pledges, the presentation colors, and the invocation.
You will join me in the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
At this time, those who wish may bow according to your custom. Almighty Creator of justice and mercy, we are grateful for the law enforcement officers who protect the citizens and counties within the state of Texas. We ask that you pour out your blessings upon them and bless the work that they do. We ask you protect these faithful servants, not only in the performance of their official duties, but in all they do every day. And God, we ask that you bless this TCOLE gathering. Help those who attend make wise decisions that benefit the profession and the community. Strengthen ties between agencies so that trust and cooperation may abound. May this gathering be all that it was meant to be for the sake of the public whom we serve. Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. I'd like to thank the University of Texas at Austin Police Department for presenting our colors this morning. Thank you to Lieutenant Hector Levano, Sergeant Justin Moffett, Officer Ivan Ramos, and Officer Riley Penny. Also, thank you to Chaplain Melissa Langley-Biegert, also from UT Police Department. And thank you to Chief Streepy for hosting us this meeting. Melissa, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Kim Lamo. Commissioner Justin West.
Here.
Commissioner Janet Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Justin Berry. Commissioner Connor Harvey.
Here.
Commissioner Sergio Sain.
Here.
Commissioner David Kreiner.
Here.
Commissioner Jason Griffin. Commissioner Rita Watkins.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here in person, making the trip to be here with us. And also for those of you online, thank you for joining us this morning. If you're watching this in a recording, thank you for taking the time to watch and understand what we do as a commission here. I'd like to mention our presiding officer, Kim Lamo, is sad she can't be here today. She had a prior engagement that she needed to attend, and she sends her regards. And thank you for Commissioner Adkins for filling in for Commissioner Berry, who is not able to join us due to a work conflict. Move on to the approval of minutes from the last meeting. We have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Fine.
Thank you. Motion passes. So we decided as a commission that it was time we start honoring the law enforcement agencies in our state. to point out where law enforcement agencies are doing good, making a difference, and really keeping our citizens safe. So we're going to kick that off this month with the large list of agencies. So Galveston County Law Enforcement and all the agencies in Galveston County, including DPS, have joined together. And if you guys would go ahead and come forward. And their work in enforcing DWI enforcement throughout the county as a whole, from the local agency to DPS to the DA's office, Galveston County is taking a stand in the protection and preservation of the way of life here in our county. So we're going to play a video quickly, and then we'll allow gentlemen go ahead and speak.
Galveston County law enforcement is taking a stand against drunk driving because the cost is measured in lives.
Vehicle crashes claim thousands of lives each and every year right here in the state of Texas.
Every year, more than 700 lives are lost across Texas. In Galveston County, nearly a dozen families grieve each year because someone chose to drive drunk. That ends now.
Every drunk driver we arrest is a tragedy we are preventing. One bad decision behind the wheel will take a life well. If you drink and drive, we will stop you and we will arrest you. One bad decision will cost you your freedom. For a victim's family, your bad decision will cost them everything.
You drink, you drive, you lose.
Gentlemen, if you'll state your name and your agency and say a few words, please.
Absolutely. My name is Brian Rippey. I am the chief of the Texas Highway Patrol Station here in headquarters in Austin. To the esteemed members of the commission, Executive Director Stevens, it's an honor to be here with you today. One of the most important things I've learned in 30 years of law enforcement and working across the state of Texas is it's amazing what we can accomplish when we partner together and through teamwork and collaboration, whether sharing assets and resources, what we can actually accomplish. And nothing is more important to the Texas Highway Patrol than traffic enforcement, reducing crashes, hopefully eliminating serious bodily injuries and fatality crashes across the state of Texas, and obviously DWI enforcement. The relationship that we have within Galveston County with the Sheriff's Office and our local agencies there is another great example of nobody wants credit, but everybody just wants to get into the fight and make a difference for our citizens and make it safer for us to commute. And DWIs not only affect our neighbors, our family members, our relatives, but just on Thursday, we had a trooper that was seriously injured out of Alpine, Texas, in what we suspect to be a DWI-related crash, a K-9 trooper and his partner. And so this affects all of us, and we are very committed, along with the Sheriff's Office and our local partners, to making a difference in every community across the state of Texas. So thank you for this honor, and thank you for allowing us to be here and share this with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Jimmy Fullen, Galveston County Sheriff, Commission, Director. We started this project back in February. We started looking at our numbers in Galveston County at the number of DWIs we had. So between November of 2025 and around April of 26, we had a 65% increase in DWIs in Galveston County. So when we looked at those numbers, we said we have to do something. Our Sheriff's Office clearly cannot take this on them by themselves. So we partnered up with our constables, with our DPS partner, with the Galveston County District Attorney's Office, and started us a DWI task force. Since starting that task force on April the 17th, we've had 130 DWIs in Galveston County, Texas. That's way too many. I am super excited about this DWI task force, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword. I'm not so excited that we're at this point where we have to actually have a DWI task force to go and combat the number of DWI drivers in our county. So again, I appreciate the commission for spotlighting agencies. I hope y'all continue to do that. And again, I can't thank DPS enough for their partnership with this. And hopefully we can reduce those numbers down to 0. That would be great, but I doubt we will. But we're going to do everything we can to do that. And again, thank y'all. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions? Thank you, gentlemen. And I'd like to point out that the video that we saw was spearheaded by a member of the staff on our county staff who lost his nephew a couple years ago to a drunk driver who then fled the scene. So this is very, very important to us in Galveston County. It's very important to families across the nation and being able to do it. And I'm gonna read down the list of agencies that are participating. So of course, the Sheriff's Office, the Constables, Precinct 1, Blake Patton, Precinct 2, Paul Edinburgh, Precinct 3, Derek Rose, Precinct 4, Justin West, Texas Department of Public Safety, who is represented by Sergeant Stephen Woodard, the Bayou Vista Police Department, the Clear Lake Shores Police Department, Dickinson Police Department, Friendswood Police Department, Galveston Police Department, Hitchcock Police Department, Jamaica Beach Police Department, Kemah Police Department, Lamarck Police Department, League City Police Department, Santa Fe Police Department, Texas City Police Department, and finally TCOLE Police Department. That accounts for every law enforcement agency in Galveston County that's participating in this task force. So we can do it in Galveston County. It can be repeated across state. DPS is involved in it heavily. So appreciate the work of all of our law enforcement agencies in our county and statewide that are taking a stand to say no more, enough is enough. So gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on agenda, we move on to our director's reports, and we'll start with Director Stevens.
Thank you. Commissioner West, commissioners, I'll have just a few brief remarks. I would just on the last item that we just had, we'll continue and with this project, we'll go out across the state, and we've got a growing footprint with TCOLE across the state, and we'll look for these kinds of examples of great law enforcement, kind of leaning heavy into partnerships and things like that, but any type of great work, but certainly where we see agencies that are working together and solving problems. Quite often we know that one agency will struggle to do great big things on their own, and so those partnerships really matter when they're working collaboratively, and we'll try to bring those each commission meeting to highlight those as we go along. The first thing I always like to do is point out new employees. Again, the agency is growing, and we are, as we work to meet the expectations of the Texas legislature and implement our sunset provisions. Clearly, one of the things pointed out in our sunset process is that the agency was understaffed and under-resourced. And so as the agency is growing, each time we'll point those out. And if a lot of the new folks we do have with us, when I call your name, if you are here, if you would stand up, please. We have Lisa Thomas, is a new education specialist. She came to us from Del Valle ISD and from the University of Texas. Again, she's going to work in our education specialist with Deputy Chief Grissom. We have Jessica Doyle. She is an administrative assistant. She'll work in Deputy Chief Vineyard's area in compliance and standards. She came from Liberty Hill ISD PD. We have Revanth Chimpathun, I almost got it right, Chintathungumti. Nope, I get it. Chintathungumpale. I think that's it. And he is one of our data analysts, and he came to us from the private sector, from Capital One. Again, we are doing our best to pilfer not just from law enforcement around the state, but also from the private sector. And we have one of our new sworn folks, Ben Hall, is one of our new sergeant investigators, a field service agent, came from Azle PD. It's a long law enforcement career. We have Darren Bales, another sworn officer, a sergeant investigator in enforcement, came from, again, Round Rock PD. We're trying our best to leave Round Rock PD with some staff. And finally, we have Haley Hewing. She's one of our new budget analysts and came from the Legislative Budget Board. We are taking from other state agencies as well. And I say that facetiously. We are, I think we've become a desired employer as a state agency, and we are hiring some of the best and brightest from a number of different places around the state and the private sector. But one of the things I want to highlight really quick that we did last year, if you'll recall, during the summer, and we're doing again, is we started an intern project, and that offers us a lot of great folks to come in and help us out with some of the things we're doing, but it also offers these young folks a great opportunity to advance their education and their resume profile, but also give them what I think will be an awesome foundation as they go out later on in life into whatever career field they may end up, whether it's criminal justice or something else. They'll have a unique foundation, and I hope become great ambassadors for criminal justice if they do go into different career fields. And I see a lot of them here are behind us. I've got Emma Cowan. She's an intern in education services. She's a UT at Austin student pursuing a BA degree in government. Christian Nichols is an intern in records in Gretchen's area in government relations. She is Christian is at UT Austin pursuing a master's degree in information services. Anna Salas is an intern in the legal division right now, and they're kind of moving around some of the divisions. So where I tell you they are now, that will change throughout the summer. A lot of them are doing different divisions, learning about the entire, all the aspects of the agency. Student at Texas A&M, pursuing a BS in forensic investigative science with a pre-law emphasis. Camilla Rivas is another intern in legal at the at the University of Texas, pursuing a BA degree in international relations and global studies. And we have Hayden Brown, intern in our legal division, student at the University of Texas at Austin, pursuing a BA degree in international relations and global studies. And then finally, Isabella Martinez, also an intern in our legal division she's a student at Concordia University. She's a graduate of Concordia University with a bachelor's degree in law and policy. So we welcome those folks into the agency. Oh, we actually have a lot. They're on the second page. So now finally we have Alina Nutzman, an intern in the legal division, a UT student pursuing a BA degree in government. That's all of the interns that we have on board. We have several of them. So we appreciate these folks being with us and, again, furthering their studies and helping us out and learning about the criminal justice field. Our staffing overview, and Brian Roth will give you more information about this, I think, in his where we sit right now. Our total FTE authorized counts 137 plus 2 temps. We don't have that many openings remaining. Our new hires, we just went over 6 new FTEs since our last commission meeting with 7 interns. I think one of the unique things I always like to point out, and I talked about a minute ago, we have become a very desirable employer. We have right now 406 applications in review. That's quite unique and certainly different from years past. That's a combination, I think, of our we appreciate the salary increases over the last session, as well as some of the great work that our folks are doing across the state and making a big difference in the law enforcement career field. Outreach efforts, you have this in your packet. I won't go over, obviously, each and every one of them. I think one of the big things that's made a real difference is not just me going out across the state, but all of our staff, and whether we're doing a class at the Chiefs continuing education or speaking at a conference. I'll be at the Sheriff's Association conference here in a couple of weeks. We go to JPCA conference. We go to any opportunity that we have to get in front of folks and talk about the sunset process. Some of the unique folks that we're trying to get in front of is at the TML conference, at different venues to talk to city attorneys and county attorneys and city managers, people that do impact law enforcement and what they do. And so, but just licensees of TCOLE, since the last commission meeting is 781 that we've been able to get in front of and either give a class or give a presentation or just simply interact with. I made a trip out and spoke at the graduation at Sul Ross University, and it's a long drive, so we made plans to stop, and I had lunch with the Fort Stockton Chief of Police, or had a quick meeting with Fort Stockton Chief of Police, and then lunch with the Pecos County Sheriff and one of the constables in Pecos County. Then again, met with other law enforcement leaders out in that area, as well as the Chief Deputy in Jeff Davis County, as well as some of the sheriff's deputies out there. A couple of special notes. We hosted sworn staff. Again, we have so many people now out across the state. We did a training session instead of bringing all of our folks into Austin, which we do periodically, certainly through the state or throughout the year. we brought all of I and the deputy chiefs and our captains that are stationed in Austin, we went out and met our sworn staff. We went to Rockport and had a training meeting with 47 of our sworn folks, along with a couple civilians, and did training out there. And about once a year, we're going to go out and do that. It gives us an opportunity to go and find a spot in the state and meet with the law enforcement professionals in that area, and gives us a chance to get out of Austin instead of all of our folks having to come in for training and kind of spread that well. Moving on to another topic, I want to kind of say a couple of words. Most of y'all are familiar. We provided testimony in front of the House Committee on Homeland Security, Public Safety, and Veteran Affairs. I want to just address one issue really quick in terms of some of the narrative about factually, we have closed or whatever term you want to use, law enforcement agencies that have deactivated. Virtually all have been voluntarily. When we go out and we do minimum standards evaluations from our sunset statute, Senate Bill 1445 from the 88th legislative session, that set out not only to establish a law enforcement agency, but to establish or continue the operation of a law enforcement agency, whether it's a 1 or 2 person ISD agency or the Dallas Police Department. Every agency must meet these expanded minimum standards. And so as we've been implementing that sunset statute, TCOLE sunset statute, and in our new minimum standards rule, most often when a jurisdiction realizes that they can't meet those standards, they acquiesce and they do ask us to just deactivate or to close the agency, and that we've had a number of those things happen. Now, first and foremost, we ensure that there's no lapse in law enforcement coverage, and typically the sheriff's office and other agencies are already answering calls in that jurisdiction. So there's no lapse in coverage, but we make sure before an agency closes that there's law enforcement coverage there. And I know there's somewhat of a narrative out there that TCOLE is out with the intention of closing small law enforcement agencies. And so a couple of things on that. We ask the question of what does that mean? What is a small law enforcement agency? And that's different to each of us. And so statistically, if that's an agency of 50 or fewer officers, 90% of the agencies in Texas have 50 or fewer officers. And if that to you means fewer than 25 or 20 officers, 77% of the agencies in Texas have fewer than 20 officers. And I think it's inarguable if an agency has fewer than 10 officers, that's 62% of the law enforcement agencies in Texas. So however you might define a small agency, the vast majority of Texas law enforcement agencies are small. And so I think that when you look at it from that perspective, small law enforcement agencies are the backbone of Texas law enforcement. So we're absolutely not closing small agencies simply because they're small agencies. Now factually, in implementing our sunset legislation, substandard agencies, we have been closing substandard agencies. If they don't meet those minimum standards as set out from the 88th legislative session, yes, then those close down. That is something, and there are more that we're working on. Now, our first and foremost goal is to help those agencies to meet the standards, and we've had some really good success stories. But if an agency, regardless of its size, can't meet the minimum standards for any sundry of reasons, if they don't provide a public benefit to the community, if they don't have sustainable funding, if they don't have the right facilities, they don't have the policies, and they don't have the equipment, regardless of their size, then they don't meet, per the statute and per TCOLE rules, the minimum standards to continue the operation. And so I really wanted to kind of clear that up. Certainly, and I've talked with several of you individually, but certainly with the commission as a whole and with the public. I want to make that very clear. And we've been talking about that in front of the 700 plus licensees that we present to the public when we present to them, city managers, city attorneys, all of our stakeholders, to help everyone understand what it is that we're doing as we implement TCOLE's sunset legislation and per the expectations of the legislature and the governor's office. And again, when I finish up, we'll be happy to answer any questions about that. A couple of other few things. We again have been at the Capitol at a couple of different hearings. I told you about going out to West Texas. Again, a lot of travel during the interim session, out meeting our constituents, our customers, where they are as best that we can, talking about things that are important to them and how we can best meet their need. And one of the big things that we just finished up, a lot of our folks went, because Texas hosted the IADLEST conference this year, the International Association of Directors of Law Enforcement Standards and Training. That's a mouthful. That's sort of our conference. It is the conference for my counterparts across the country. I believe there were 40-something post directors from around the nation that attended. I think the total attendance was 344 people. I have been up until this conference. I was IADLEST Midwest regional representative. How Texas is in the Midwest region of anything, I'm not sure. That doesn't normally make sense, but that's our region. At the conference, I was appointed to become the second vice president of IADLEST, which would put me in line to eventually become the president. That lasted for 5 days, I think, and the new president, it's an ascension process, much like IACP and TPCA. The president that was sworn in at the conference in Fort Worth when he returned to Idaho is no longer in the position that he was in Idaho. I don't know the circumstances there, but is no longer the president of IADLEST. So 5 days as the second vice president, and now I'm the first vice president. So we're moving up pretty quickly. The current president now is the post director in Nevada. I'm hoping he holds on since we're coming into a legislative session. The next conference for IADLEST is in June in San Diego, at which time I would ascend to the IADLEST president position. With that, the final thing in my report, I'll take you, if you'll recall, in our exceptional items and in our budget from last session, there was funding that came to TCOLE to support a statewide recruiting effort to address recruiting and retention in Texas law enforcement. And the Texas Police Chiefs Association was will be the recipient and will manage a statewide recruiting website. It's not just for city agencies or state agencies or county agencies, and it's not for any one particular part of the state. The idea behind it is to help and assist in recruiting Texans to get into law enforcement anywhere in the state, but also to bring people. We have a lot of people moving to Texas, to encourage people, whether you're a peace officer in another state or not, if you're just interested in law enforcement, to recruit people to Texas to enter law enforcement. And then we will, we can look at what's right for you, a rural area, an urban area, a city agency, a county agency, a state agency, whatever it may be. That's the premise behind it. And it came with money for a statewide website that TPCA, Texas Police Chiefs, would have established, and it came with personnel. It's a very robust package. And so I want to first say how much we appreciate the legislature for funding something like that, the governor's office, and in particular, the lieutenant governor's office for seeing that funding that we, TCOLE, we have that funding, and then we parse that out to the Texas Police Chiefs Association. Brian Roth was instrumental in that. So was John Beecham in our legal department. Gretchen played a very big role in that because obviously it deals with government affairs. But quite honestly, all of our folks, it was a team effort to make sure that it's a unique process. It's kind of not normal, but everyone came together and made sure that happened. And so we finished out and received that check. It's for $217,000. And the representatives from the Texas Police Chief Association are here, so I'm going to give them that check. That's the final piece of my report. I think that Mike Harmon and Scott Rubin are here. If I could get them to come up, I'll hand this to them, and that's part of our budget from the 89th legislative session. I think if you pull any officer, if we go get one of those UT officers and ask them, what's the number one issue facing law enforcement right now? Invariably, they're going to say recruiting and retention, right? And so it's a big deal in 12 funded. Yeah. Mike Carmen is the TCA's liaison to TCOLE, and Scott Rubin is the assistant executive director. There we go. You bet. The partnership that we've got with TPCA and with the Sheriff's Association that we're building with the JPCA Association, with CLEAT, with TMPA and other organizations has been instrumental, I think, in some of the successes that TCOLE has had. One of the things I've said as I travel across the state, all of these new minimum standards, which increase and better law enforcement, there's no way that TCOLE will accomplish those on our own. If we run across the state trying to beat people into compliance with a stick, we TCOLE will fail at meeting those expectations of the Texas legislature and of the governor's office, and so. And that to me means that Texas law enforcement will fail to achieve those higher standards. The only way that we're going to succeed is in partnership with Texas law enforcement, with those associations, with the agency, the chiefs, the sheriffs, the constables, the agency chief administrators, with academia, with LEMIT and the other programs. And so we've been steady at work across the state building partnerships, and I think this is one of the examples of that to address one of the biggest issues facing law enforcement across the country, but certainly in Texas, is recruiting and retention. And so I think that was the legislature sees that, and so putting that funding that kind of effort at recruiting and retention makes a big difference. So that concludes my prepared remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Director Stevens? I'd like to say thank you for your outreach, including other staff members, to give you some time to actually run the agency a little bit more. Having more faces out to the community is very important, and thank you for organizing today to make sure TPCA gets their money, we can get that recruiting set up. I appreciate it. We'd like to take a quick break, 15-minute break, and then hopefully we'll push through the rest of the agenda. So be back in here 10:18. 30 seconds early. Thank you for that. And we're going to move on to our next director report, be Director Brian Roth for our finance report.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a brief update on our financial position and human resources operations as we enter the fourth quarter. Our financial position remains strong and stable, which gives us the flexibility to continue and invest in our capacity and advance key initiatives that support our mission. In the human resources operations area, since the start of the fiscal year, we have onboarded 37 new employees with additional hires starting soon. We currently have 5 job postings with multiple functions across those. We have 10 individuals somewhere in the pipeline between giving them a conditional offer and having a start date in the background process. So we've got quite a few more in line to be joining soon. In financial operations, since our last meeting, the finance team has continued close collaboration with the budget committee. And we've also completed several important deliverables, including a base reconciliation, updates to the strategic plan and workforce plan, a state utilization assessment, performance measure updates, contract renewals, surplus property disposition, and a state auditor's office assessment related to non-degree applicants. And of course, we've also submitted various other required fiscal reports in that time. Our current focus is prioritizing the successful integration and onboarding of new team members to ensure continuity and productivity across the agency. Looking forward, our upcoming initiatives, of course, we're preparing for the legislative appropriation request, which will likely be due before the next commission meeting. We will be updating our human resources policies and preparing for the legislative session overall. In closing, our financial position remains strong. Our teams are building a meaningful capacity, and we remain focused on executing the initiatives that will sustain service delivery and readiness for the upcoming session. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments for Director Roth? Like I said, thank you for all the work you put in with the budget committee. We're going to cover that in a later agenda item, but understand how much work goes into just running the agency and then adding the extra for our requirements for LBB. So thank you for that. With that, we're going to move on to Director Grisby for our government relations.
Good morning, Commissioners. I would like to first talk about preparation for the 90th legislative session. I want to give a special thanks again to the Budget Subcommittee. Commissioner Harvey has led that. Commissioner West and Commissioner Berry both have been instrumental in developing the exceptional items that you will be looking at in agenda item number 11. There's been a lot of talk within the legislature. Interim hearings have been happening. As the executive director said, he's had testified at the Senate Committee on Criminal Justice on May 4th, talking about regulating the role of reserve officers. That's led to a lot of the discussions that he touched on in terms of agency standards. We also testified, both the executive director and Deputy Chief Vineyard testified at the House Homeland Security, Public Safety, and Veterans Affairs Committee on May 28th. There were 3 interim charges that committee was taking up that related to TCOLE items, monitoring the implementation of House Bill 33, the Uvalde Strong Act, the authority of the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, which really centers around the very agency standards that we continue to talk about and that will be discussed in one of the proposed rules later today. And then strengthening the law enforcement workforce, which was a very broad, it had several different elements to it, but the executive director provided testimony for that one. Again, there's been a whole lot of discussion about agency standards that again will continue with the rule, that you'll be discussing later in today's agenda that I want to reiterate, because this is a really important thing, that I am having a couple of follow-up conversations with legislators who have heard from their constituents about this topic, that TCOLE is not seeking out to shut down small agencies because they are small. We are working first to try to get agencies in compliance with the minimum standards that were set forth by the legislature and the advisory committee that was put into statute to develop those standards. We are certainly taking a look at the agencies who cannot and do not anticipate being able to meet those minimum standards and see what the plan could be for ensuring as always, that law enforcement coverage is available in whatever community they're currently serving. I want to again reiterate that that advisory committee that put those standards into place was very intentionally composed of large and small and urban and rural and constables and sheriffs and municipal and labor groups and public membership. All of that was really critical to the development of those standards. So as we looked toward the 90th legislature, most of the bill discussions that we've had so far for potential legislation have been surrounding that very topic. And then, of course, continuation of school safety issues that I think are important for all of us. Moving on from legislative talk, of course, though this does stem from legislation, we launched the Open Text Records Repository on June 8th. It's been a very, very exciting time for us. And I know Jessica will talk a little bit more in her report about the latest stats on the users and documents uploaded. But this has been a huge effort for our entire agency. And we held town halls on June 12th, that Friday. So we launched on a Monday. And with that launch, we set schedules for some Microsoft Teams town halls. We had about 350 attendees each for file uploaders that we held at 11 o'clock in the morning on the 12th, and about another 350 at the 1 o'clock session that we held for background investigators. It's been, again, an ongoing communication effort. The records team continues to get questions about what this process is going to look like, what the retention periods are, how the agencies are expected to use it, and then, of course, how chief administrators can go in and make sure that their team has access to Otter. I mentioned in the last meeting that Otter will ultimately replace TCOLE Secure Share. The first step in that process is no longer accepting new TCOLE Secure Share users, which we implemented last week. So any applications for new users to TCOLE Secure Share are now being told that they need to work with their agency chief administrator to get them access to Otter instead. And again, Jessica will talk more about the plan that we have as we get to a place in Otter adoption to begin decommissioning TCOLE Secure Share. Of course, Otter will be an important focus of conference deliveries. We've got the records team, which is comprised of Camille Stone Stanton as the supervisor. We've got 4 records analysts. We had previously had 1 contract employee. We now have 2 contract employees working on this whole system, and the intern that the executive director mentions. Their first priority is serving the customers who have questions about that. They are approving background investigation requests because every background investigation includes requesting documents from TCOLE if we have any. And so the records team is processing those as they come in, and then migrating the documents that we had received prior to the Otter launch, putting them in their respective places within Otter. So that's a very important effort, and as we've said before, the final piece of our sunset process implementation. So it's been a very exciting time. I do have one team update. You all may have heard that Sarah Beth Barksdale, who had been our public information coordinator for the last few years, has left our agency. She had found another position that was closer to the home where she lives. And Elizabeth Rodriguez, who was on the records team previously, is now the public information coordinator and is reporting to Camille, and they're working together through our open records processes, making sure they are formalized. I want to give thanks to the legal team who also supports this whole process from top to bottom, making sure that we are complying with the Public Information Act, letting the team understand deadlines, what that looks like in statute. And so that's been a really great partnership that we continue to work on. Otter, of course, will be one of the primary stories on the briefing that is set to go out next week. I want to give Kate a shout out, and you've seen him here today taking pictures and posting on our social media sites. I do want to encourage, you've got some statistics in your notebook on our audiences. I want to make sure that folks know we do have an increasingly robust social media presence, and you can follow us on our social media pages that are linked on our website. and we continue to push out good information in that way. In the special events realm, of course, the Law Enforcement Achievement Awards ceremony will be held tomorrow. This is one of the times that we get to deliver positive awards and positive news to our licensed community. So it's a very uplifting time for us. We'll be honoring 63 recipients, 16 of individuals for 9 situations in the category of public service. We've got 12 receiving professional achievement awards, and then we have 35 individuals from 20 instances receiving Valor Awards. So that'll be a really great time tomorrow at the House Chamber in the Capitol, and that'll start at 10 a.m. So we look forward to that. Conference is our next major event, and again, a reminder that is August 10th through 13th at the Waco Convention Center. August 10th is the registration day only, but we'll begin sessions on August 11th. We launched the registration for that on Monday, and we have already received over 400 individuals registering. So we know that they were just waiting to be able to hit that button and register. We've got 95 exhibitor spaces filled. On a side note, speaking of House Bill 33, one of the requirements out of that is training for public information officers, which we will be providing during the conference. The registration for that is when you go to register for the conference, you register either as a general attendee or as a PIO attendee so that we can help shepherd those folks. That is a 3-day class. It's going to be taught by TDEM, and we look forward to being able to support the need since existing PIOs have a deadline of August 31st of this year to become compliant. So we're providing that unmet need in the last month for compliance for that. Again, I want to thank the team that supported the IADLIST conference earlier this month. It's always an honor to be able to host the gathering of our counterparts from national and international representatives. So that was a great thing for us to be able to do. And then finally, looking over the horizon, we are already beginning plans for next year's Peace Officers Memorial Ceremony, which will be toward the end of April again. That concludes my remarks today, unless you have any questions.
Any questions or comments for Director Grisby? Thank you for your team's work. There's a lot of events happening, and they get to see we have more and more events taking place. I do want to just make a special mention to the judging panel. Thank you to those who reviewed all the applications for the awards. It was Sheriff Russ Authier from Parker County, Chief Anthony Boone from Longview Police Department, Constable Leticia Vasquez from Bexar County Constable's Office Precinct 2, Officer Gabriel Candia from El Paso Police Department, and a public member, Nick Atwood. A lot of work that goes into making those decisions and finding the right people to give awards to. And thank you to everyone who submitted the applications for the awards. It's very important that we have involvement from our community, and this is one way we can honor those that are doing well and making a difference in law enforcement in Texas. So with that, we'll move on to our licensing education report with Chief Grissom. Excuse me.
Good morning, Commissioners. To kind of follow up on what Brian was talking about with the hiring, we have 2 new high school pipeline specialists in the high school pipeline program that'll be starting July 1st, leaving 1 more position on that team in interviews to fill. So we are accumulating the workforce to go out and implement the high school pipeline program. Our final training compliance agent that we've been trying to recruit in the Valley, we have an offer pending background investigation for that final position, which will make that team whole. Since the last meeting, we've had 1 license and permit specialist in credentialing transfer to an enforcement role. And so we are actively recruiting. Actually, we have a conditional offer out pending background to fill that position. So that puts some context to some of the people Brian's talking about onboarding. All of the normal statistics for e-learning and those types of things are in my report. I won't belabor all of that. There is one course that Education Services is working on currently that should launch within the next few weeks, and that's a new chief administrator course. We're trying to give new chief sheriff's constables and chief law enforcement officers a place to go immediately upon promotion to that position, or if they anticipate, and any licensee can take the course. The reality is that anyone with a license and a my TCOLE account can take the course. But chiefs and constables have 2 years to do their mandated LEMIT training. We wanted to give them an interim quick and easy access to those things that will help a chief administrator succeed. So we're currently working with Chief Vineyard and his staff and Education Services to build that, and we anticipate the launch of that within the next couple of weeks. So that's the most notable thing that we have coming in terms of e-learning. I also included in your packet a white paper, which is an analysis by our Education Services staff of the job task analysis that was performed for the basic peace officer course by the researchers from LEMIT and Sam Houston State University. So our staff has looked at that. The biggest takeaways is that the current BPOC touches almost all of the topics identified in the job task analysis. So it's not a, throw the old one out and have to rebuild from scratch, but there is it points to some significant revision, and there are some gaps. In the report, you'll find some key findings. The BPOC is a very, very linear and doesn't have as much applied knowledge or experiential learning. So I think as we move forward in review and revision of the licensing course, we will be working very hard to be more explicit about what training providers have to do in providing that course. To include performance-based objectives and some, we'll certainly work with our academy partners in fleshing that out. But I think we as an organization need to be more descriptive and more prescriptive of what's expected in the delivery of the BPOC program to make officers better prepared to take the intellectual knowledge and apply it in the real world. It's be more application based. I encourage you, if you have an opportunity to look at their assessment white paper, certainly if you have any questions, Rachel Reinhardt, Education Services Supervisor, myself will be happy to answer any questions or concerns. We will eventually be reaching out to, as we get into the review and revision process, we're going to need subject matter experts to help us build out the new version of the BPOC. And so we will be reaching out to the community in the future to do so. That's really all I have prepared, unless you have questions.
Questions or comments for Deputy Grissom?
I just want to say I'm looking forward to this process. It's been a long time coming to get everybody on the same page with academies across the state.
I think in the analysis, Commissioner, from my perspective, is I'm glad that it didn't say we were so far off the mark that we were starting from scratch. That we were probably doing a pretty good job, but there are obvious gaps that the old curriculum, new crimes, digital problems, there's a whole new world as the landscape changes. We'll need to address some of that, but at its core, Texas was doing a good job training peace officers, I think, is the analysis both from, Sam Houston and then our internal view of their report. So I don't think it'll it'll be as heavy a lift as some of us thought initially.
Yes, I think so. I agree. I agree. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Chief Grissom. We're going to go ahead and move on now to the Information Technology Report, Director Caparo.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to add to what Gretchen Grigsby was discussing about Otter and provide some data metrics for you. Because Otter was just launched 17 days ago today, the data is very, very fresh. I have added on your files on your iPads a data document called Otter Engagement that you are welcome to take a look at. But for the benefit of the audience, I'd like to highlight a few key points from that data. So as of yesterday, we had almost 500 agencies that have created Otter roles, and that's almost 18% of the law enforcement agency population. So considering that we are 16 days in as of yesterday, that's wonderful adoption so far. Right now, we have records in Otter for just over 1,300 individual licensees. That only makes up about 1% of the licensed population. But again, 1,300 records or 1,300 individuals that have records within the system is another great start to the system. Agencies, one thing that is interesting is that the files that have been uploaded into the confidential statewide employment or CSED portion of Otter are files that end up in that repository because an agency has separated someone and they are obligated to submit those personnel file documents to Otter within 30 days of separation. They're also, agencies are also obligated to submit misconduct investigative reports within 30 days of separation. And so far, what we've seen is about 4% of the separations that have occurred since the launch of Otter have files in Otter to complement that separation. That sounds low, 4% is low, but again, we're 16 days in, and that's with still only halfway through the 30-day period. So there's still time to comply, and that number is really not too concerning at this time since we are still in an education phase and in an adoption phase of the system. But very interestingly is the files that have been uploaded. Out of all the files that have been uploaded to the CSED portion of Otter, 96% of them have been done so voluntarily, which really speaks volumes to the agency's willingness to transparently share files through our system. So I would say we are off to a very strong start with Otter. Now we'll continue to monitor engagement and adoption because that will weigh heavily into our decisions that we make to decommission the TCOLE Secure Share or TSS application. We don't want to hinder the ability for agencies to exchange files for background sharing purposes. So right now, those two systems are coexisting in parallel, but that can create some confusion and some potential duplication in system usage. So we do want, I would recommend that we be aggressive in trying to decommission the TSS application, but we need to do so with very careful consideration. So we are looking at how many agencies are adopting Otter by creating roles to use Otter. And the big main driver for that right now is hiring someone or separating someone. So obviously larger agencies are going to be compelled to set up those roles more quickly than smaller agencies that may have less turnover. So we're kind of watching for once we reach about the 75% adoption of agencies mark, and then we'll look at that remaining 25 and get a true gauge of what adoption really looks like and start kind of targeting some of those agencies to get them on board. And then we'll be able to make a decision to take the next step towards decommissioning TSS. And at that time, we'll be able to publish timelines for when that's going to happen. One thing that made Otter successful so far is the assignment status manager feature that we released prior to the launch, the official launch of Otter. The assignment status manager is a feature that's within TCOLE that allows agencies to create roles within the TCOLE system and within the Otter system. And that's going really well. The next phase of that feature is to start adding additional assignments, like what Director Grigsby was referencing with public information officers. We intend to be able to track assignments like PIO, where agencies can assign those roles within their agency through the assignment status manager, as well as administer permissions to TCOLEDs and Otter. But another feature of the assignment status manager that is already available is the ability to change the pay status of your licensees within your agency in fewer steps than the existing method. So right now in TCOLEDs, the TCOLEDs application is a legacy system that we are modernizing step by step, feature by feature. But the current process is to search for the individual, go into their profile, go into their service history, and then you can change the pay status. So you have to drill in quite a few steps to get to that point. But if you use the assignment status manager, you can search for all of your people. You have a lot more search capability to filter to those individuals more quickly. And then you can right click on that individual and change their pay status right there in fewer clicks. So more information about changing pay status is going to be published within the next couple of weeks, because we are moving into the second phase of our pay status project, which is to help agencies get all of the licensees on their officer list in the correct pay status, so that we have good, solid numbers on how many full-time officers we have, and part-time and reserve and all of that. So like I said, within the next few weeks, more information will come about that. And the final thing I have is compliance. So one of the big projects we do every 2 years is Target 100. That's law enforcement training compliance for unit and cycle training. I want to thank everyone for their patience in us getting the My Compliance page within the My TCOLE account updated. It's not currently showing the courses required at this moment, but that is because we have been working to refactor the way that logic runs. Again, TCOLE has been operating on legacy practices and legacy systems for so long, and that process is such a critical piece of what we do as an agency, but the logic that compiles the training needs desperately needed an update. So we've been refactoring all of that so we can continue to adapt that logic with legislative changes every 2 years. And that is currently in the testing phase. We want to make sure we get that right before we publish it out to people, so they know exactly what training they need by August 31st of 2027. And that feature will be released no later than September 1, but it will be sooner than that. We are in testing now. So that is the final thing I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
I do. Let me see. My question, or am I? It's always on. Okay. So Director Caparado, one question. I have looked at the agenda for the TCOLE conference, but it fails me. Is there a session on otter at the conference that's coming up? Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Great.
100%.
I know that transition from one platform to another can be overwhelming. It's, we're creatures of habit. So I appreciate all of the work that you've put into this and your team as well. Thank you. So.
Any others?
If I may, I just want to say how I just want to give kudos really to all of the team, but to IT for sure. This has been a huge, heavy lift, and Jessica and her team and throughout the agency, certainly in Gretchen's as well. Deputy Chief Vineyards played a major role, but with Brian Roth, we have to pay for it. It's very expensive, and so everyone kind of working together again. And we had to transition money. I don't really know how to say it, but if you want to know how there's a thing that it's called, and I'm saying it wrong, but if you want to know what it's called, Brian can tell you. Literally though, to pay for it. So a very big team effort. This is the crescendo of our of the sunset implementation in terms of records, so that whenever an officer, it is the final piece of replacing the old F5 form with the 3 categories, right? And that was one of the critical aspects of TCOLE's sunset review, to say this form is not working. Chiefs, sheriffs, constables, labor all said this form, we got to do something different. And this is the final piece of that process, right? And so when when a licensee leaves an agency within 30 days, there are things due to TCOLE. That's the impetus behind this, but it's far more robust than that. It will replace TSS eventually. And so I just want to take a moment real quick. And you're right, Commissioner Watkins. It is huge, and there'll be some growing pains. And we've identified the fact that there's not enough licenses, but it came with the number it came with, and we're seeking funding into the next legislative session to get more. We don't want to pass on costs to the agencies, but their team, specifically IT, but everyone, has just done an amazing job at getting this up and running and finding the right vendor. And it's a great platform that will do it will do a lot of great things for Texas law enforcement that will improve, professionalize, all of these things. And I really appreciate all the hard work, keeping their eye on the ball, staying focused with a lot of noise, because we get calls every day for stuff. They still got to do the day-to-day operations, staying focused and pushing it through. And here we are. It's launched. It's live. I appreciate the agencies that were early adopters. I can't name them all. There are about a dozen. From a very large agency to a very small agency, from sheriff's offices, constables, rural Texas, urban Texas, to help us to get this done. But I really appreciate y'all's efforts. Thank you.
I'd like to echo that, understanding how much work went into it. Director Stevens kind of stole my thunder. License count. How are we doing a license count so far?
Okay. We are currently at about 16% consumption of licensing.
And we're expecting that to be maxed out in the next 6 months.
It'll get there fast.
The second thing is the decommissioning of Secure Share. You mentioned that the files that currently exist in their expiration periods are being moved over, so they'll be available for the next agency? No.
The items that are in TSS, the TSS application, expire, so they are not going to be moved. Those documents are transitory documents, and they live for a very short period of time. But the transactions that take place in TSS will be taken into consideration on our decommissioning timeline.
Okay. And then finally, the My Compliance. I know that's been kind of back burner till we get Otter going. I've had questions from several people about how can they look at their compliance. Well, I direct them to their agency to have someone pull a TCOLE report. But on that page, is it possible to build it where a licensee can see their past compliance period and their current compliance period?
It is not possible right now with the historic logic, but with the current, the way that we're moving, with the way we compile that logic, it will become possible. That is
Okay.
something that one of the goals that we were seeking in this refactor.
Outstanding. Well, that's something that people will ask, and they'll have to go have someone pull a report for them. What did I do? When did I do it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll actually be able to determine we'll be able to determine when you became compliant.
Some of that shows in the license hookup now, which is nice. Yeah. Well, thank you, ma'am. All right, we're gonna move on to agenda item number 7, and I'll turn that over to Director Roth.
Good morning again, Commissioners. With your permission, I'd like to bring up representatives from Weaver and Tidwell to report on internal audit findings.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, thanks for having me here today. I wanted to give you a status
Please
on.
state your name and who you represent.
Sorry about that. Yes, I'm Dan Graves. I am the outsourced internal auditor. I work for Weaver and Tidwell. So thank you again for having me. I did want to present to you the status of our internal audit plan and then the results of the internal audit we have completed. So we have 3 on our plan for this year. The one we have completed is over budgeting and planning. So the scope of that was to review the process by which the agency develops the biennial budget and then submits that to through the legislative appropriations request. So that includes quite a bit. For budget development, it looks at input validations, calculations, and validating the mathematical accuracy of those calculations. Also, the alignment of the budget with the strategic plan, and then any changes to the methodology or inputs from year to year, validating the approval cycle for that. We also looked at budget monitoring that included performance monitoring, variance analysis, and then also approval of fiscal notes and estimates. So we do have a rating system we issue on reports that is strong, satisfactory, and unsatisfactory. That's high to low for you. This report received a strong rating. We did have one finding. We risk rate findings high, moderate, low. The risk rating was assigned to this one as moderate. It really centered around documentation. So elements of documenting procedures that detail how that methodology is completed for the budget development. We didn't have any issues with the processes in place and the procedures that are going, but there was no documentation to support or guide staff on that. And as part of a mature process, having documentation to guide and lead others should, the current people performing those activity leave the organization for whatever reason. Just institutionalizing that knowledge and methodology through a procedure document. So having some documented procedures that require, things like checkpoints, validations, documented approvals. And then the second part of that documentation is really having supporting documentation in the files, in the budget files for certain things like estimates, assumptions, that kind of documentation, so that it's a very vetted, layered approach to budgeting. Don't want to leave the impression that none of those things were done. It just wasn't retained as part of the permanent budget file. And so having those along with documented approvals of the use of those estimates, assumptions in the ultimate approval of the build up to the final budget. So that's really, it's a little wordy, it's a little big, but it really does just center around maintaining additional supporting documentation for the processes and procedures that are already in place. And so that's really the report for you. In summary, we will get this report distributed to you in its entirety after this meeting. I've already coordinated with management on that. And if after you've had the chance to digest and read it, if you have questions, I'd be happy to chat with you one-on-one about anything that you might have about the details of the report. As far as our other internal audits that we do have an internal audit over general controls and information technology. We are complete with our procedures and are moving through the reporting phase. You will receive a full report in executive session at the next commission meeting. We also have some follow-ups on last year's internal audits over enforcement and licensing. We'll present those next time. And then at the next meeting, our final report for the fiscal year of 2026 would be the annual internal audit report. That is a requirement from the legislature as part of the Texas Internal Audit Act. The guidance for that is issued by the SAO. It comes out early August. And so when that comes out, we'll prepare that report in accordance with that guidance and those standards and be able to present that to you for your approval. That report does get sent to the Legislative Budget Board, the SAO, and the Governor's Budget Office, and that's due by November 1st. So we have plenty of time for that and the submission, and I submit that on your behalf, and I copy management on that so that they can be assured that it's complete. So that's my report, mainly covering the report that we've completed. Do you have any questions of me?
Questions or comments? I say thank you for the hard work on it, and thank you to Brian and your team for getting a strong report from this. A lot of effort, a lot of moving parts, especially with the state budgeting. So appreciate the hard work that you put in on that.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, and I'll hand it over to Chief Grissom.
Commissioners, we impaneled, or you impaneled an advisory board based on statute for the Law Enforcement Polygraph Examinations Committee. That committee was successful. Deputy Chief Vineyard was actually the TCOLE liaison for that. In his absence, I'll speak to some of the output and may ask Aaron for any clarification if need be. The committee met, the committee will be proposing a rule governing the use of law enforcement polygraphs, and the committee will produce or has produced a model policy for agencies to adopt in line with their perception of the statute. Those will be brought to the commission at the September meeting. So, Aaron, okay. So that's all I have.
Very good. I appreciate the work of the committee and the liaison, and you guys supporting in his stead. We're going to move on to agenda item number 9, and we have public comment for this item. If you've signed up for public comment or you wish to make public comment, please go ahead and proceed to the front.
Commissioners, I was the liaison for the Motor Vehicle Stop Data Advisory Committee. I do want to recognize the presiding officer, Chief Nathan Anderson of Rockport Police Department, and the assistant presiding officer for the committee, Dr. Melissa Cummings, Deputy Director of Houston Police Department's Planning and Governance. They've agreed to join us today to kind of speak to the output of the committee and the work that the committee diligently did on our behalf.
Thank you very much. And whichever one wants to take off, please state your name and who you're with.
I'll kick it off. My name is Nathan Anderson. I'm the Chief of Police for the city of Rockport. Also, as Colin said, I was the presiding officer of the Motor Vehicle Stop Data Advisory Committee. Our advisory committee was established to recommend improvements to motor vehicle stop data collection. And we started this process back in January, and our committee met 5 different times. We also started at the same time as the polygraph committee did, and we're already finished. Not that it was a competition, but it was in my head. So we're glad to present this to you today. We were charged with focusing on improving clarity, consistency, and data quality so that reported data is reliable, usable, and comparable statewide. Dr. Cummins with the Houston Police Department is with the Office of Planning and Data Governance, and she was absolutely instrumental in this committee. And I'm going to let her take over and discuss what we came up with our committee, and we have some really good deliverable for you guys that we want to want y'all to recommend. So with that, Dr. Cummings.
Thank you, Chief.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Cummins. As I've said, I'm Deputy Director for the Office of Planning and Data Governance with the Houston Police Department. And it's not all too common that we get to participate in a committee that aligns so directly with my day job, but it was a complete pleasure. Really enjoyed the work with the group. So in the discussion, what we identified was that the report currently collects the right variables, but there was a lot of discrepancy upon the interpretation of what those variables were. And so in talking amongst the agency committee members, we decided that proposing a data dictionary would be very helpful, both for collection agencies, but also for researchers or for legislators to be able to make sure that the data once compiled was sort of an apples to apples comparison. And so what we've done is drafted a data dictionary that's in your packets. It provides line by line item definition and some guidance on what should be included, what shouldn't be included. And some of the highlights that we sort of went through as we went through those data points, again, focusing on clarification, the definitions, aligning agency data with the goal of having an overall improved data quality. We wanted to know what that data meant. So through the committee conversation, we identified those differences. The first and the largest is probably driver-only data. So there's some discussion around whether driver and passenger data or driver-only data as part of a traffic stop would be collected and reported. And the intent, we felt, of that collection was really around the driver and the driver's involvement in the traffic stop. And so the data dictionary does recommend driver-only data collection across the searches, contraband, arrest, use of force. The contraband categories, we did clarify quite a bit. There was a lot of data that suggests unknown or other. And what we believe is that the categories that currently exist were not broad enough to capture things that we are seeing commonly. So rather than just drugs, also drug paraphernalia. And so to group those into categories so that we're actually collecting the data intended for that group and reducing the amount of unknowns, we think it'd be a good modification. The report location, there was a lot of discussion on whether the location that you're documenting as part of the stop is where the initial violation was observed or where the traffic stop actually takes place. And so the recommendation in the data dictionary is that we really are focusing on where the violation was observed, where the decision to stop was made, and it does correlate with the type of roadway. And so rather than getting a side street for someone who was pulled over on the highway but just happened to pull off, we're now getting data aligned more closely with the traffic stop action. We had a similar discussion around the primary reason for stop. In the category selection through a traffic stop, you could identify multiple categories that would apply, where the instruction that we're giving is it's the initial reason for conducting the stop, not ultimately where it ends. And I think that gives some clarity as well to what we're getting. And the last one that was pretty significant was clarifying conversation on the complaints, racial profiling complaints. We would like to use or propose to use the three categories that are a little bit more common amongst sort of those kinds of investigations of sustained, not sustained, unfounded, or pending review. And so rather focusing on whether discipline was issued, we're focusing on the actual findings from that racial profiling complaint, we thought was more in line with the intent of the data collection. And I think that's all I got on the data dictionary itself. Any questions on that?
Is the data dictionary going to be published with TCOLE or is it going to be published somewhere else with the state?
My recommendation is that it is published with TCOLE, that it's housed on the website where agencies are getting information on how to produce their annual racial profiling reports, and then it's distributed or made available publicly. I think it has a lot of value both within law enforcement and the research community.
Commissioner, if I may, our intent will be both to publish this in the form of a technical assistance bulletin that'll be widely published, and then to, as best we can, train this out. Ideally, one of the places the committee arrived at this probably should be part of field training new officers, more so than the BPOC even, because that's where they learn, the nuts and bolts of traffic stops and the reporting system within the agency and capturing the data. But our intent certainly is to publish it on the web, to publish it via a technical assistance bulletin that's more descriptive on how to use it. And just as a reminder, there are a couple of small changes in some of the language that we need to program into the system, but this will be for data collection starting January of 27. So now, all of the recommendations from the committee, including the data dictionary, could be implemented now. Because I think, the committee's work was very powerful. They went back and read the statute. They tried to slave everything back to the statute. But we had a diverse enough group on the committee that none of the agencies on the committee captured and reported the data identical to the agency sitting next to him. There was that much divergence in the way things were reported. And so I think it was very powerful that as they got together, went back to the statute that requires this and really slaved us back to what the legislature asked for initially. And we did have researchers on the committee who are going to be the consumers of the data, such as Dr. Cummins, and we had other researchers on there, and they're really the consumers. They're the ones on the back end. So it was meaningful to them to be part of the process, and they gave a lot of clarity to the process. So we will certainly be publishing this early and often. And one of the reasons we wanted to make it to this meeting is to give the lead time for agencies in anticipation of January, hopefully everybody being on board with implementation.
And was an output from the subcommittee a small in-service training guideline to make sure that it's getting trained the same way?
We're looking at the potential to put it on my TCOLE as a very short, simple, but it really is. It would be very simple to do. It's how do you read the data dictionary?
Right.
Their work is very explicit. It's really simple to implement.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, a question. Director, Deputy Chief Grissom, yes. So, and to the committee members, was there any conversation or any discussion about a model policy though around the data dictionary for these agencies? Because I'm sensing that the dictionary will change the policy for some of these departments, will it not?
It very well could. That's
Yeah.
one form of implementation.
So, any discussion about a model policy that could be pushed out to these departments that would help them address what is going to be asked from the data dictionary? I'm just,
We hadn't previously, but we certainly can.
I'm just anticipating that some of these departments are going to definitely identify that their policy is going to have to be changed as a result of the recommendations from the. So I'm just asking if that's something that the committee, either the committee or.
If I may, we'll certainly take that and look at that. I at least colleagues of mine, I look at many, if not perhaps most, all agencies form their policy almost verbatim out of the statute. And so I'm speculating that, and I see your head nods, that they really stuck with the statute. So I don't know that it would offer substantial changes to what policies are out there. And under the minimum standards, every agency must have must have that policy in place. And so let us communicate that and discuss it, and we'll look through it. I may make a couple phone calls back, and if it seems like there could need to be a change that may say, oh, and also you need to follow the data dictionary or something, we'll certainly look at that and take it under consideration if it looks like we need to do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much. And thank you again to the committee for being first. We'll consider bringing that up in September. But we really appreciate your service. All right, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 10. We're going to give it back to Director Roth.
Good morning again, Commissioners. You have in your packet the fee schedule. There are 3 changes this time. We're dropping a jailer for contract facility item and adding 2 additional proficiency certificates that were voted into existence last commission meeting on April 16th, which would be the mental health telecommunicator and the public information officer proficiencies.
Commissioner West, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, this agenda item you see every June. It's in response to whether, as Brian Roth had said, whether we have any new certificates, whether certificates need to be removed, or other items along in the fee schedule. But under our rules, we are to review that every year and bring it back to you at the June meeting. I can't really answer as to why the rule is so specific as it has to be every June, but we're going to go along with it. There's no reason to change it. It's worked out pretty good so far. So that's why you have this before you today.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Director Roth or General Counsel? Well, thank you very much. That was the easiest one for the day. Oh, we need a motion. Sorry. Yes. Motion to accept the fee changes.
I make a motion to accept the commission fee schedule changes as written.
Second.
The motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 11. And we're going to give it to Commissioner Harvey to lead us to our LAR. Feel free to tag in whoever you like.
Well, thank you, and thanks for all your help to Commissioner West with this process and to the committee. So everybody, all the commissioners have a proposed budget that we've been working with the budget committee with staff for this next legislative session. This one, I think, my perception of it is very meat and potatoes items. Some of it so much so that it's moving costs to the new building, a new copier, and things like that. But a lot of it is related to kind of compliance things from the legislature and auditor about records and those sorts of things. There's a few staff positions requested in here. But you know, the agency's been growing quite a bit recently and nothing as significant, I think, as our last request to the legislature. But Brian, if you want to give an overview, a more particular one, or whoever else on staff as well, jumping in with whatever items relate to for the commission, that'd be helpful.
Thank you. So some of the key objectives we were looking at is some of these were being created and discussed with the committee, kind of the overriding things we were looking at. And this incorporates some of the different, we've got the 6 key measures, and they kind of line up in this way. Ensuring compliance with sunset legislation and legislative requirements, modernizing technology and data practices, strengthening training and professional development, upholding agency standards, and continuing the peer network. You'll notice some of these are recurring from our ask last legislative session. Some of these were reworded and better justified, and we're trying again on some of these as well. Would anybody else on the panel like to jump in on any of these specifically?
Yeah, so I'll point out that all of these, we've been very intentional that all of these are going to be very mission oriented. So every item that you see on here is to the core of what TCOLE's functions are intended to be as directed by the legislature. So that's item number 1 that I would like to point out. I would also like to say, as we continue to refine the wording and the descriptions of these, you may see some changes in the future. What we're asking of you today is to approve the overall concepts and the general framework and dollar amounts as they are presented. That may continue to be refined as well as we get more concrete costs associated with each of these. So I really do, again, appreciate Commissioner Harvey, Commissioner West, and Commissioner Berry for their work on this. You will see the Texas Law Enforcement Peer Network. That is one of the items that it is not technically a TCOLE operation. However, it is part of our budget and is one of the things that we think it is very important to support statewide. Commissioner Watkins joined us for a meeting with UNT Dallas that has a contract to operate the Texas Law Enforcement Peer Network. And so we are continuing to work with them again to refine that portion of the request, and that will require a lot of stakeholder support because it is a benefit to the law enforcement community that we want to make sure continues in a robust fashion.
Good. Any comments from commissioners? Questions? I'd like to point out that the peer network is something that has been instrumental in helping officers across the state. So that, even though it's the last item on here and it's not technically our item, it is important that we continue to support that. We support the officers and everyone who interacts in the law enforcement community with a method to have someone to talk to. So with everything that we're asking for, we're working through continuation of the sunset. As we were discussing, the license count is going to be absorbed pretty quickly. Database space and things like that, stuff that details on here, moving buildings, all that is important in itself. So appreciate the committee, the staff who put hours and hours in the committee who worked through in trying to line it out. And Director Roth, this is going to be kind of where we're at right now. It may change a little bit before the actual submission, but I think we're pretty close on this, right?
Yes, sir. We are.
Thank you. Commissioner Harvey, anything to close this out?
Not really, just thank you again. And I appreciate the hard work that went into this.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for a motion to accept the proposal as written. Do we need that language for modification?
I think it's a good question. Commissioner's question is having a motion to accept the current recommendations from the exceptional item and budget committee with regard to being able to incorporate obviously any changes that Gretchen was talking about, but also if there is any numerical additional changes, I think you can accept it in principle right now with the understanding, or you can tag the motion with it as well, as to whether any numeric or other expansion of it, or whatever the case is, any future amendment to the numbers can be done by the budget committee with that understanding. I think you can just accept it as is with the ability of the budget committee to amend as necessary.
So with that, seeking a motion on this.
All right, so I move that the commission adopts the 2026-2027 legislative appropriations request with the caveat that the budget committee can amend any of the unfinished numbers, the unfinished items as necessary.
Call for a second.
Second.
I'd like to get a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 12. And we'll pass it off to Assistant General Counsel Heath.
Commissioner West, if I can, to give a brief overview for a refresher for those watching at home, those in the audience, and for the rest of us. Before you today, you have 5 agenda items related to either rules that are being read for the first time before you, which is agenda item number 12, and rules that were read to you at a previous commission meeting. I believe they were all from the April meeting in San Antonio. That's agenda items 13 through 16. Of course, we'll take these all separately. But as an overview, the rule that's subject to a first reading, if you choose to accept it or any additions that you make to it today, this is agenda item number 12. It will then be posted to the Texas Register and will be subject to public comment. It will go through that process. At the next commission meeting, it will be brought back to you if you choose to move forward with it after first reading, and it will be subject to final adoption at that time after consideration of any public comment that you receive. Agenda items number 13, 14, 15, and 16 have went through that process. As I said earlier, you had the first reading in San Antonio. They've been brought back to you. They've been subject to public comment. A couple of them have received public comment. We'll address them as we go through each one individually. 13 through 16 are before you today for you to consider their final adoption, meaning that taking in consideration any further staff contributions that have occurred between, it's happened since San Antonio to now, and in response to any public comment, if necessary, as recommended by staff. 13 through 16 will be subject to final adoption and effectively short thereafter. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the general process before you today as it relates to rules?
And I think I'm going to go ahead. I'll read the actual agenda item out loud so we understand what it is. Agenda item number 12 is to discuss and take action on a proposed amendment to existing TCOLE Rule 221.21, firearms proficiency for community supervision officers relating to the removal of the recertification and renewal requirements and the certificate expiration provision. Now we'll hand it to Citizen Counsel Heath.
Good morning, Aaron Heath. This is a proposed amendment to Rule 221.21. The amendment would remove the requirements to recertify firearms proficiency every year and to renew the certificate every 2 years in order to maintain the certificate. And this would also mean that the certificate no longer expires. These changes would restore this certificate to what Texas Occupations Code Section 1701.257 requires, which is that community supervision and corrections officers complete a basic training program and that TCOLE issue a certificate for successful completion of that basic training program. This will allow the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to decide if they will require annual firearms proficiency. This is proposed amendment to Rule 221.21 for your consideration for posting to the Texas Register for a period of notice and public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Heath? And Mr. Heath, just to clarify, we are under statute, we're required to issue a certificate not to maintain their training. So what we're doing with this rule is handing it back to those agencies to manage their staff and not require TCOLE to do that.
That's correct. Yes.
And just for a refresher, these are not our licensees.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to have a motion on this one.
I move that we adopt or publish proposed amendment to existing TCOLE Rule 221.21 in the Texas Register as written.
Second.
Motion second. Look for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to agenda item number 13. We've had a request for public comment. If you are signed up for public comment, please proceed to the podium. Agenda item number 13 is to discuss and take action to finally adopt the amendment to existing TCOLE Rule 211.16, establishment or continued operations of appointing entity relating to the definition of public benefit to the community provided by a law enforcement agency, the process for creating or deactivating agency, and the HB 33 from the 89th legislative session and communication equipment requirements. I'll turn this over to brief public comment for this. And when you do your public comment, please state your name and where you're from.
Good morning, honorable commissioners. My name is Nicholas Teague. I'm an elected Emergency Services District Commissioner for Bastrop Travis County Emergency Services District Number 1. With regards to the proposed administrative rule amendment to 211.16, we feel as an ESD that it does not align with the legislative intent of the 81st legislature. Specifically, we're requesting a 6th item be added to read as follows. The agency is an emergency services district, and the emergency services district has adopted a fire code in accordance with Texas Health and Safety Code 775.0365B, and the peace officers will be performing the duties outlined in Texas Health and Safety Code 775.036G. The Texas Commission on Law Enforcement's proposed rule on presumptions of public benefit for new law enforcement agencies is a thoughtful effort to streamline approvals while protecting public safety. However, subsection B is incomplete. It should be amended to add a 6th condition recognizing investigators and inspectors appointed by emergency services districts under Chapter 775 of the Health and Safety Code. ESDs are a political subdivision of the state created specifically to deliver fire protection, emergency medical services, and related public safety functions in areas that have to rely on law enforcement investigators who lack the in-depth and comprehensive training and state licensing required for fire inspectors and fire investigators. Fire inspector and fire investigator certification is not merely a class with a written test, but rather a state license which requires a prolonged course of instruction and a demonstrated skills proficiency examination. Section 775.031C and 775.036G expressly grants an ESD the power to appoint peace officers and to enforce the district's adopted fire code and protect life and property within its boundaries in ways that officers who are not specialized in such areas would be inadequate at best and incapable at worst. The omission of ESD investigators creates an unnecessary gap. The current list of the proposed rule already includes county and district attorney investigators, subsection B4, and school district or higher education police, subsection B5, because those entities serve a clear, statutorily defined public safety roles. ESD inspectors and investigators commissioned as peace officers serve an equally vital function. They respond to emergencies, investigate arson, environmental, and other fire-related crimes, secure hazardous scenes, and enforce burn bans and other life safety ordinances, often in rural or rapidly growing unincorporated areas where no other law enforcement agency is readily available or are inadequately qualified to do so. The 81st legislature understood this when the statute was amended, and the statute clearly articulates the legislator's purpose. The proposed rule fails to follow this legislative directive. Adding ESD inspectors and investigators would align the rule with existing state law and with the legislator's intent that ESDs be equipped to fulfill their public safety mission. It would also prevent anomalous result, which ESD could lawfully commission officers, yet would face an extra hurdle not intended by the legislator when seeking TCOLE's subjective interpretation as to whether or not the agency provides a public benefit. The change is modest, statutorily grounded, and directly serves the public safety needs of Texas communities. That concludes my statement. I remain available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Teague.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Thank you, Mr. Teague. We've got the public comment from Mr. Teague yesterday afternoon. And if I could ask Commissioner West if we back up a step, and we'll let Aaron Heath, he'll go through the rule as it is proposed, and then I'll discuss the options with regard to this public comment. Hopefully, Aaron will go through the rule, lay it out, and then we'll come back with the public comment and hopefully have it up on the screen, and then we'll go from there, and I'll give you some recommendations.
Thank you. This is an amendment to Rule 21116 for final adoption. As required by HB 33, which also known as Uvalde Strong Act, this proposed amendment would require certain agencies to have an assigned public information officer. These include a municipal police department, a sheriff's office, a county constable's office, a school district police department, and the Texas Department of Public Safety. The assigned public information officer will have 1 year from initial assignment to obtain the PIO certificate. And if the assigned PIO does not obtain the certificate within 1 year, or after obtaining the certificate, it becomes invalid for failing to timely renew, the agency will have to assign a different PIO. Next, HB 33 provided additional requirements for a law enforcement agency's active shooter policy, which are detailed in this amendment. It also requires a law enforcement agency to have access to at least one breaching tool and one ballistic shield, and requires at least one breaching tool and one ballistic shield be available at each campus of a school district or open enrollment charter school. The amendment also clarifies the intended communications equipment requirement, which requires a radio or a cell phone for certain officers, not both a radio and a cell phone. Finally, Occupations Code 1701.163 requires TCOLE to determine whether an agency provides public benefit to the community when creating an agency or for an agency to continue to operate. This proposed amendment would provide factors to help TCOLE determine whether an agency would or does provide public benefit to the community. And these factors came about due to some struggles and lessons learned in evaluating past applications for the creation of an agency. Subsections B and C address public benefit for entities that are applying to create a law enforcement agency. First, under subsection B, these prospective agencies are presumed to provide public benefit. Next, if a prospective agency does not fall under subsection B, they can still show that they provide public benefit through a balance of the factors in subsection C. And then moving on to subsection D, it addresses public benefit for agencies already in existence. And then subsections E through J address the application process for an entity to create an agency. And subsections K through L address the deactivation process for an existing agency. The goal of these rule additions is to provide objective measures and consistent processes when evaluating new agency applications or issues involving existing agencies. And it's a benchmark against what we have seen in failing agencies drawn from specific examples. This will also allow agencies to know what is required of them and what will put that agency at risk. The only recommended change from the prior proposed version is unpaid peace officer updated to a reserve law enforcement officer in section A7B. Unpaid peace officer was the language used by the Agency Minimum Standards Advisory Committee before the definition of reserve law enforcement officer was developed. This update in terminology is non-substantive change that reflects current usage. Amendment to Rule 21116 is for your consideration for final adoption.
Thank you.
Commissioner West. Commissioners, in light of, as presented by Aaron and staff, the proposed rule for final adoption, the options for your consideration today are, thank you for pulling that up. This was Mr. Teague's public comment, which was submitted yesterday. You'll see the change, the public comment with the requested change to subsection B6, the exact language. I have it in front of me here. For the purposes of everyone in the audience, maybe not can see the screen, the requested addition under subsection B, which as Aaron said, these are the agencies which are presumed to provide public benefit to the community if any of the following conditions are satisfied. And I'll read directly from, the agency is an emergency services district. This is the language in red that's underlined before you. And the Emergency Services District has adopted a fire code in accordance with Texas Health and Safety Code, Section 775.036.5B, and the peace officers will be performing duties outlined in Texas Health and Safety Code, Section 775.036G. This is the proposed public comment language. It is worthy to note, staff has not had the opportunity to review either the provisions in this case and whether as a matter of policy it be added. And if you did choose to add this at this particular juncture, it would be a substantive change because it does add an entirely different category, a new category that's presumed to provide public benefit under subsection B. So the options before you as the commission, at least at this meeting, are to number one, finally adopt the rule as proposed by staff, laid out by Aaron Heath, or number two, incorporate the public comments which we just received, and we can repost it to the Texas Register for further public comment because it is a substantive change. If you choose the first option, which I would recommend the first option, adopting it as proposed by staff today, as presented by staff today, we would have the opportunity to take this public comment submitted by Mr. Teague, run it through staff, and come up with a response and any recommendations based on the public comment. It's not as if the rule can't be amended or proposed to be amended at a later date. But we would recommend that you finally adopt the rule today, and we can consider the public comment for future amendment to the rule. Are there any questions on that?
Thank you for the clarification. Mr. Teague, thank you for your public comment. Like to see you get a motion in a second.
I make that motion on the first one that they've already worked on.
I'm sorry, what did he say? I couldn't hear. I
I
couldn't.
make the motion that the staff has recommended
Staff's recommend,
Okay, okay.
as presented by
as
staff.
presented by the staff.
We have a second.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, that'll move us on to agenda item number 14, which is to discuss and take action to finally adopt the amendment to existing TCOLE Rule 211.29, responsibilities of agency chief administrators relating to the timely reporting of completed personal orientation and field training, the timely reporting of certain individuals who do not meet minimum standards for enrollment in initial licensure, and the timely submission of the active shooter incident response evaluation reports prescribed by alert to conform with HB 33 from the 89th legislative session. We'll hand it off to Assistant General Counsel Heath.
Thank you. This is an amendment to Rule 211.29 for final adoption. As required by HB 33, this proposed amendment would require chief administrators to submit a preliminary report to TCOLE within 45 days, and then a final report within 90 days that evaluates the agency's response to an active shooter incident. Also, chief administrators would be required to report to TCOLE within 7 days of discovery that a licensee applying for enrollment or appointment with the agency, a person enrolled in the agency's academy, a person enrolled in any academy and sponsored by the agency, or a licensee appointed with the agency does not meet the minimum standards for enrollment or initial licensure. The genesis of this provision came from the amendment to Rule 217.1, specifically so that TCOLE could terminate a provisional license when the provisional license holder is found to not meet the minimum standards for enrollment or initial licensure. But this will be a helpful tool in other situations to notify TCOLE of those who are potentially ineligible for a license. And finally, this proposed amendment would require a chief administrator to report to TCOLE within 30 days after the successful completion of personnel orientation and field training by a licensee. The only recommended change from the prior proposed version is the addition of the sentence in subsection F defining active shooter incident. The definition exists in other laws and is the same definition that the Texas Division of Emergency Management is obligated by HB 33 to use. So this clarification is a non-substantive change. This is proposed amendment to Rule 211.29 for your consideration for final adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any discussion, questions for Mr. Heath? Look for a motion in a second.
I make a motion that we finally adopt the amendment to existing TCOLE Rule 211.29.
A motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Move us on to agenda item number 15 to discuss and take action to finally adopt the amendment to TCOLE Rule 218.3 legislatively required continuing education for licensees relating to the continuing education requirements on advanced incident response and command for supervisors to conform with HB 33 from the 89th legislative session as implemented in the Texas Occupations Code 1701.3526, and the requirement that individuals licensed as reserve law enforcement officer of public security officer complete alert training education each 4-year cycle and complete alert level 1 by August 31st of 2029. I'll turn over to Assistant Counsel Heath.
Thank you. This is an amendment to Rule 218.3 for final adoption. As required by HB 33 and implemented in Occupations Code Section 1701.3526. This proposed amendment would require supervisors to complete an advanced incident response and command continuing education course each 2-year training unit, and it would also update rule language to conform with recent legislation. Also, as required by Occupations Code Sections 1701.253 and .3525, it would require individuals licensed as a reserve law enforcement officer or a public security officer to complete alert continuing education every 4-year cycle and alert level 1 not later than August 31st, 2029. This is an amendment to Rule 218.3 for your consideration for final adoption. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Look for a motion in a second.
I make a motion that we finally adopt the amendment to existing Rule 218.3, legislative required continuing education for licensees.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you all. The motion passes. It moves us on to agenda item number 16. Discuss and take action to finally adopt the new TCOLE Rule 223.20, emergency suspension for imminent threat relating to the emergency license suspension of a licensee who constitutes an imminent threat when a chief administrator is unable to make the determination to conform with Senate Bill 1445, the 88th legislative session as implemented in Texas Occupations Code 1701.5011. And we'll turn this over to Assistant General Counsel Mark Duncan.
Thank you. 22320 is, as you stated, a new rule up for final adoption. It's implementation of the 1701-5011 statute from the legislature. This fills a stopgap measure where normally an agency performs fit for duties when there's some kind of imminent threat for an officer. But in that rare circumstance where the chief administrator is not available to do so, and there's nobody to fill in or step up, the governing body or somebody acting as chief administrator, TCOLE can be the one to come in and suspend a license. Agencies typically use that ability. We think this will be very rare when this has to happen. And you can see in A that we've detailed kind of the situation where the chief has to be unavailable. And then B gets into the imminent threat issue. I mean, we really are focusing on imminent. And the examples in C are a list of circumstances where somebody else has performed the investigation. TCOLE is not trying to go out and do the investigation. We have very specific instances where we have documented admission to a mental health facility or some other legal intervention. D is the methodology and implementation of this rule, limiting the suspension to 90 days. And we will, in these situations, automatically request a hearing for the licensee. So it's a very short-term suspension with a lot of due process. And we are offering this rule for final adoption. Oh, there is
Thank you.
Public comment.
Commissioner West, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, before you, again, we have another public comment that we had received just prior to the commission meeting. For the record, it's from the Policing Project from the NYU School of Law, dated June 23rd, 2026. After initial review of the document, staff's recommendation that there be no change based on this public comment to the rule as proposed and read for final adoption by Assistant General Counsel Duncan today. For your consideration, and the public comment will go back to staff for consideration and further response. Again, I want to reiterate, however, based on our review of it, we recommend no changes based on it to the rule before you today for final adoption.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? Entertain a motion in a second.
I make a motion to finally adopt new TCOLE Rule 223.20, emergency suspension for imminent threat relating to emergency license suspension.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We'll move us on to
Go to 17. Yeah, that should be at the very end. You see?
Moves it on to
17.
agenda item number 17. Discuss take action on proceedings for revocation, suspension, and other disciplinary actions. And it's going to start with Citizen General Counsel Daniel Walker.
Commissioners, we're going to start off here with the default suspension orders. There are 18 of these. I will go through and read them. Happy to take questions on individual ones as we go, and then I'll present them back to you for voting after we get through the list. So as a reminder, these are cases where we were seeking a suspension. We sent a petition to the appropriate address. There was no response in a timely manner, so we are seeking default proceedings against each of these. The first is Mark Anthony Arce. He was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension, and he failed to answer the petition, and we now recommend that 10-year suspension. Next up is Juan Benitez. He made, submitted, caused to be submitted, or filed false or untruthful personal history statements with 5 separate law enforcement agencies. The respondent omitted, failed to disclose, or provided false or untruthful information relating to his employment history and his law enforcement agency application history. We sought a 5-year suspension. He failed to answer the petition, and we recommend a 5-year suspension. Next, we have Richard Black. He was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. And he was also convicted for a second offense of driving while intoxicated with a BAC of 0.15 or higher, a Class A misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension, and he failed to answer the petition. And we do recommend the 10-year suspension on Mr. Black. Next, we have Joseph Cohen. Joseph Cohen was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension. He failed to answer the petition, and we recommend the 10-year suspension. Next, we have Roderick Dash Jr. He was convicted or placed on community supervision for assault causes bodily injury, a Class A misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension. He failed to answer the petition, and we recommend a 10-year suspension. Next, we have Vanessa Fike. Vanessa Fike was convicted or placed on community supervision for possession of marijuana less than 2 ounces, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension. She failed to answer the petition, and we recommend the 10-year suspension. Next, we have Cassandra Hawthorne, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension, and she failed to answer the petition. We recommend a 10-year suspension. Next, we have Craig Hodling, who was convicted or placed in community supervision for assault causes bodily injury, a Class A misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension, and he failed to answer that petition. We do recommend the 10-year suspension. Next, we have Kelvin Huffman, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension, and he failed to answer the petition, and we recommend the 10-year suspension. Next, we have Jack Kemp, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension, and he failed to answer the petition, and so we recommend the 10-year suspension. Next, we have Deja Lindsay, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension, and she failed to answer that petition. We recommend a 10-year suspension. Next, we have Matthew Maldonado, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for collision involving damage to a vehicle of $200 or more, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension, and he failed to answer the petition, and we're here seeking the 10-year suspension. I'm recommending it to you. Next, we have Lazaro Menendez, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension and he failed to answer the petition, and we are recommending a 10-year suspension. Next, we have Aaron Neal, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for possession of marijuana less than 2 ounces, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension and he failed to answer the petition, and we are recommending a 10-year suspension. Next is Caleb Perkins, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated with a BAC of 0.15 or more, a Class A misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension and he failed to answer the petition. We are recommending the 10-year suspension. Next, we have Andres Regalado, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated, a Class B misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension and he failed to answer the petition, and we recommend a 10-year suspension. Next, we have Michael Rogers, who was convicted or placed in community supervision for cruelty to non-livestock animals, a Class A misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension and he failed to answer the petition, and we recommend a 10-year suspension. And finally, on this list, we have Brooks Smith, who was convicted or placed on community supervision for driving while intoxicated with a BAC of 0.15 or more, a Class A misdemeanor, and was convicted or placed of place of community supervision for a second driving while intoxicated with a BAC of 0.15 or more, another Class A misdemeanor. We sought a 10-year suspension and he failed to answer the petition, and we recommend a 10-year suspension. These are the default suspension orders for your consideration.
Thanks, sir. Do you have any questions or comments? Entertain a motion in a second.
I make a motion that we accept the default suspension orders on Mark Ars, Juan Benitez, Richard Black, Joseph Cohen, Roderick Dash Jr., Vanessa Fike, Cassandra Hawthorne, Craig Hodling, Kelvin Huffman, Jack Kemp, Deja Lindsay, Matthew Maldonado, Lazaro Menendez, Aaron Neal, Caleb Perkins, Andres Regalado, Michael Rogers, and Brooks Smith.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll move on to the default revocation orders. Assistant General Counsel Haley Glisson.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have 4 default revocations. These are petitions seeking revocations that were sent to the appropriate address and no response was received. The first one is Brianna De La Rosa. This involved the offense of official oppression. It is a Class A misdemeanor and is an offense directly related to the duties and responsibilities of the license held, and we are requesting revocation. The next one is Alexis Pistole. It's an offense of contraband in a correctional facility. It is a Class B misdemeanor and an offense directly related to the duties and responsibilities of the license held, and we are requesting revocation. The next one is Laura Pitzinger. It is an offense of assault by threat, and it is a Class C misdemeanor involving family violence, and we are requesting revocation. The last one is Draylon Smith. It is an offense of assault causing bodily injury, and it is a Class A misdemeanor involving family violence, and we are requesting revocation. Those are the 4 revocation orders.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Entertain a motion in a second.
I move that we accept the default revocation orders on Brianna De La Rosa, Alexis Pistole, Laura Pitzinger, Draylon Smith.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That moves us on to the agreed administrative penalty waivers, again with Assistant General Counsel Haley Glisson.
The agreed administrative penalties waiver are cases where an administrative penalty was assessed and a notice sent to the agency with a waiver attached, and the chief administrator or designee ultimately signed the waiver. This means that the agency agreed to the executive director's recommended administrative penalty contingent upon the commission issuing a corresponding agreed order. This one was for Boyd Police Department. The respondent sponsored an individual that did not meet the minimum standards for enrollment or initial licensure to attend the basic peace officer course. Specifically, the person did not meet the citizenship requirements. After being informed, they did not separate the person for over a month. We assessed a penalty of $5,000 and the respondent signed accepting to pay the administrative penalty. And today we recommend acceptance of the respondent's agreed administrative penalty in the amount of $5,000.
Any questions or comments? I'm going to entertain a motion in a second.
I move that we accept the agreed administrative penalties waiver on Boyd Police Department.
Second.
A motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move to information only section and hand it off to Citizen General Counsel Mark Duncan.
Morning again. For the information only section, no action is required from you. We had 6 statutory suspensions, 2 term surrenders, 14 permanent surrenders, and we just finished a training cycle where Project 100 did well, but we have 24 suspensions for training noncompliance. These licensees will have to get their training done to reinstate their license. 43 reprimands for training noncompliance. The reprimands are for people who did complete their training but late. 9 reprimands for administrative violations, and 3 agency reprimands for audit deficiencies, which is new. We have the ability to reprimand agencies as well as individuals. All of these actions have already taken place by statute or operation of law. So if there's no other questions, no action is needed.
Thank you very much, sir. And with that, that'll bring us to just before 12 p.m. We'll take a 15-minute break and be back in here at 12:15. in session here. And we're going to take the next few items out of order. We're going to start with item 19 on the agenda. And that is discuss and take action on the appeal of the executive director's denial of a misdemeanor waiver of TCOLE 217.1 minimum standards for enrollment and initial licensure for the Llano County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Marquise Cantu, on behalf of Kevin D. Dumas. And I have 3 people signed up on this one. What order we take this one? Start with the presentation.
Sure.
Who's doing that presentation?
You can ask the ED if he has anything to say first.
Okay. Director Stevens, we're going to turn over to you if you have anything to say on this item.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Commissioners, if you will recall, quite recently, we changed up the process that we do the waivers for, and for the benefit of the newer commissioners, historically, it was delegated to the executive director that if an appeal was brought to, I'm sorry, if a waiver request was brought to us that didn't meet some criteria that we looked at, and it wasn't, it was left to me to deny a waiver request if there were certain things that that didn't meet some parameters, and there wasn't really an opportunity for an appeal for due process, and so. Y'all didn't really see many of those. If in the waiver request, it was pretty straightforward, and it was a one-time offense a long time ago, if you will, an indiscretion in a young person's life, then that would come to the commission, and then you all would approve it. So essentially, I would say no, but y'all would say yes on waivers by and large, obviously some exceptions. And again, in my 2.5 years at the commission, there had been a number of those. We changed that process. I think really the driving idea there was to give the opportunity for an appeal, for some due process whenever I declined one or whenever I denied one. And so essentially now we've changed those, and you'll see in a minute also one that that it was approved, but again, the commission grants the waivers, not me, so that needs to be ratified. You'll see that here in a little while as well. And so this is really one of the first couple. I think we've had one more previously, but under this better new process. And you have the letter the commission that I signed and sent out for this one right here that sort of explains the denial, the reasoning behind my denial. But that's simply me. It's not y'all that are denying it. Those are some of the reasons. I do want to point out in this particular case, some of the issues that when it came before me, that I based that denial on, which was an incomplete background investigation, and I'm confident you all have all read through that letter. Some of those issues actually have been alleviated in the appeal process. The sheriff did what I think, my opinion, an outstanding follow-up investigation went and satisfied a lot of those things. Those don't exist, but some of the things are still there. It was an assaultive offense. It did occur a long time ago. But those were one of the triggers where I denied him. If it was an assaultive offense and some other classes of offense. And so again, essentially it's not up to me, it's up to the commission. This is a better system because even though I've denied it, the sheriff has elected to appeal that and bring it to you guys. So that's where we are today. And with that, I turn it over to the sheriff to, pending any questions you might have for me, turn it over to the sheriff to ask for reversal of my denial.
Any questions or comments for Director Stevens? All right, Sheriff, when y'all speak, if you don't mind, please introduce yourselves and your agency.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Marquise Cantu. I am the Llano County Sheriff. I appreciate your time and consideration in this matter. I'd also like to thank Executive Director Stevens and also Ms. Aguilar, who helped me through this process. I'd like to say that I took over in January of 2025 as sheriff. I had 25 years law enforcement experience with the Texas Department of Public Safety. And as many of you know, a new sheriff taking over office, there's lots of personnel changes. My command staff at that time left the office. our admin that handled the background investigations left. So I started brand new as a brand new sheriff. Shortly after, Mr. Dumas came to me and was highly recommended from community leaders to come to the sheriff's office. He began his personal history statement in March. He was hired in May. That was very early in my tenure as sheriff. He was hired. I want to tell you that Mr. Dumas is a mentor to our officers, both in patrol and CID. He checks on our jail staff. He's always in dispatch checking on the welfare of our people. He has great ties in our community. He goes to a church that has invited me to go. I've gone to church with him. He's actively involved in the community, young people. I believe he is a mentor, and he is looking out for the well-being of our youth. He's a mentor, and he's an asset to my team, and he's an asset to our community. And I'm here to respectfully request your consideration to have him to grant him this waiver. Like Executive Director Stevens said, we have now sent our background investigators to accredited training so that they come back and we have a very thorough background check that's done on our new officers. And so we have implemented new procedures to make sure that we don't have problems in the future. In this situation, I went to San Angelo, Tom Green County. I met with the sheriff's office to try to find records relating to this incident. Also went to the county clerk's office. I went to the district clerk's office, and then I went to San Angelo Police Department, and I went to the probation office. Anyone that would have had any kind of hand in this incident, this assault incident, to try to gain case reports, offense reports, court documents, and I've provided those to the TCOLE staff. This happened in 1991, so therefore the retention schedule and there has been an order of expunction, so there's not very many records available to me, but I try to gather those, made an effort to try to find out anything, to reach out to any witnesses or the victim in this case, and was unable to do so. But Mr. Dumas is here, and he's a very good officer. He is a go-getter. I assign him tasks, and he gets it done. He doesn't complain about anything. He's a great officer, and he is an asset to my team. So I respectfully request that you consider a waiver. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Dumas, if you'd like to take your time here.
Yes, sir. So,
please introduce
Kevin
yourself as well.
Dumas. I'm sorry. My name is Kevin Dumas. I just want to reiterate a few things that Sheriff Cantu said. That is correct. This incident happened in 91, August of 91. Actually was resolved in March 25th of 1992. At that time, at no time throughout this whole incident did I ever deny responsibility. That was taken care of. That's the first and foremost. That I did a year deferred adjudication throughout. Of course, at the age of 17, you really don't know a whole lot of how the system works to the point that where I know it is today. So throughout my entire time with, as far as with the community and everything else, I just wanted to be that role model throughout my career to show that you can make a mistake at 17. It's about what you do with it and how you share it with everybody else. And I believe I've done that through my career. No other issues. I have a master's peace officer license, got a master's degree. So, got 2 beautiful kids, a wife. I think I've shown that at the age of 17, that's not who I am. And today I'm displaying who I am. So I also ask that you consider the waiver as well.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? I'm going to go ahead and ask a couple questions
Okay.
The first question I have is, in the packet, there's a probation warrant, and I know you mentioned in your letter that can you explain that? I'd like to get a better understanding what that.
Yes. So whenever I was done with my 1 year deferred education, which would have ended in April '92, I had been sent in. Let me step back. So I was able to report to probation by mail. Because I was in college, didn't have the means to drive from Odessa, Texas to Midland, Texas. So Judge Bland was so gracious to amend what I needed to do in the community service. So each month, before the 15th day of each month, I had to turn in an envelope, which was showing my academic grades, progress, and how everything was going with school at that time. So moving forward, in April of 93, it would have been, I turned in my last card. I reached out to Miss Hunt, who was my probation officer at the time, told her that she was going to receive my last card. She had communicated to me that she was going to leave, but she was going to go ahead and get my stuff reviewed and whatnot. Shortly after, I guess about a couple weeks or later, Coach McMasters, who was my track coach at the time, had communicated with me if I had gotten any info from the probation department. I told him I had not. I called there that day, communicated with someone in the office. I can't recall the lady's name, but she took my information, took the coach's phone number. She said she would get back with us, see where my file was with all those details, and then she explained that it would take some time to get it. Several months, even a couple years, rode on, never got anything, never heard anything. About 1994, I moved to Fort Worth, Texas, stayed in Fort Worth about 96, started my career working. I started with juveniles there in Cleveland, Texas. And then 96, went to Midland, Texas. And somewhere in between there is when I found out there was a warrant for my arrest. So the allegations were that I didn't report in person, which that was granted. And Kurt Hawkins, who was my attorney at the time, he was able to, on that part of it, demonstrate that we sent in the cards. Everything was examined by Coach Q McMasters before we sent the cards off. He wanted to make sure that it sounded intelligent. You can imagine for a 17-year-old. So turned those in. And then, so we discredited that part. And then the next allegation was that we didn't pay the fees and fines. The total fee was $367. My parents had paid $250. We had the documentation, so it left like $117 left on it. I'm sure they paid it. There was no outstanding balance. So again, that allegation was also dismissed. And now, if you give me a sec, I'll tell you what the third allegation was. Okay, the third allegation was an address change. So the time period that they said that I failed to change my address, we were actually able to also provide that I was still in college in the same location and never moved.
So essentially, that was you went to see a judge, you paid a bond. What happened in that situation?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
You went inside a judge, you were arrested. What was the outcome of that?
Yes, so I didn't go to jail for the probation violation. Whenever I was notified, Sheriff Painter was the sheriff at the time. And so when I got the call from him, went over, we got a hold of JP Wallace. He came in, did the arraignment in the office, suggested that I get back in contact with my counsel, which I did, which was Kurt Hawkins. I drove to San Angelo, met with him, still had the paperwork from 91. And then we had a court date after that. And they, the Judge Bland went ahead and gave us the motion to dismiss
Okay.
the revocation.
So, your expunction was for a robbery charge,
Correct. It was an aggravated robbery charge.
but the charge, the only document that still exists that's in your packet is a Class A assault charge.
Correct. So, would you like me to explain that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the deal with the Class A is, so we had been in Cristobal, Texas. It was myself, two of his friends, James Allen and Edward Garcia. We've been out at Lake Cristobal. It's summertime. We're headed back to the house. Edward Garcia wanted to stop at the convenience store.
Hold on, let me rephrase my question then. 'Cause I've read through all that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
There is a Class A assault charge still on your record that's presented in your packet.
Correct.
The expunction that you're arguing makes you eligible is for a aggravated robbery felony charge. So why is there still a Class A assault charge on your record provided in your packet?
I'm still not understanding. I'm sorry. Why is there the offense there on my background? Yeah, that's something that I'm trying to figure out as well, because if you look at the expunction, the way I read it was that everything that was tied into that was supposed to be expunged. And for some reason it wasn't. And that's, of course, this came up whenever we got audited. So this is news to me on that part
Okay.
of it.
Well, and that's the disqualifying factors. A Class A misdemeanor makes you ineligible for licensure. So that's where I'm getting hung up on, that is seeing they expunged the aggravated felony charge and left that behind. So there's either a reason or a mistake. If there's a mistake, should that not also be expunged? Would you not have been working on that already?
Well, I didn't know that it was just hanging out in the wind like that. And that was a situation where I had talked with Kurt Hawkins about, because the way I interpret it and then the way when Mr. Nichols came out, he interpreted it was completely different. I interpreted from the 51st District Court that anything associated with that original offense was to be expunged. Didn't matter that I took the plea for the misdemeanor. It's still out of that alleged felony. So I don't have a good answer why it wasn't. But now that I'm aware of it, I hadn't reached out to anybody at this time, but I've had looked up numbers to try to find attorneys that don't mind engaging in this. But I mean, that's really the whole issue.
Right. Okay. Anyone else?
Sir, if I may, just for clarification on that, and TJ's not here, but if one of the attorneys that worked on it wants to chime in or correct me if I'm wrong, the aspects of it, or the original charge that was a felony, that was expunged. The conviction, deferred adjudication, that was not expunged, and probably, I'm going to say, is not eligible for expunction because it did result in a conviction or deferred adjudication. So it would not have been eligible for expunction. The other aspects of it, the felony charge and whatever else, was indeed expunged. That's where the aspect of expunction came in. I think along the lines, as he was hired in different places, that's where the confusion in the appointing agencies occurred, is they're looking at this order, which can lead you to believe erroneously that all of it was supposed to be expunged. And that's not the case. Only the felony aspect was expunged because that was dismissed. That did not result in a conviction or deferred adjudication. The Class A misdemeanor, though, did in fact result in the conviction and deferred adjudication. And so it's not eligible for it. And it is in fact on his record and remains there and does make him ineligible for licensure. And so therefore that's what makes him subject to cancellation. And that's why I would need a waiver to continue working. If anyone on the legal side of it that worked on it has anything further.
No, that's all correct. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So all the agencies you've worked for since 2003, the circumstances haven't changed.
No, sir.
What changed was an audit happened.
Yes, sir. And
Recently.
actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is my fourth audit. And this is the first time that this has been an issue.
So you were with another agency at the time they had an audit done.
Yes, sir. Mr. Burks was our TCOLE guy out West Texas.
And they didn't find it at that time.
Never had an issue.
Well, sir, if I may, Commissioner, when we audit, unless we do a full audit where we look at all of the files, which occurs, but often it's a representative sample of files. So in a 30-person agency, the FSA may go and pull, say, 5 of the files, and they're at random. And so I'll want to double check for sure, but I think it's because if an FSA had pulled his file, it's in there. You can't miss it. Right. He's been straightforward about it. It's been in there. And so I'll speculate, but we could look and double check for sure, is that his file simply wasn't pulled in representative sample audits throughout his time as he goes to different agencies. But in this one, his file was pulled, whether it was a full audit or a partial audit, and it was easily found. It's certainly in the file and readily available, and it hit right away.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the clarification. I guess I was just wanting to confirm that circumstances haven't changed. It's not that part of the legal process played out and something's different now. The circumstances today are what they were all along.
Yes, sir. They're the same as they were from the beginning in 1991.
Yeah, and to clarify on the age, you said you were 17?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought I read where you were born in 71. This was 91? Did I miss?
This was 1991, correct?
And okay, so were you 20 at the time?
No, sir. I graduated in 91.
Okay.
So no, I wasn't 20.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That math didn't math to me, so just wanted to clarify. That's all I got. Thank you.
So just for clarification, what's your birth date?
11/1/71.
71 to 91 is
That's
20
20.
years.
No, there's no way I was 20 because I signed a scholarship with Odessa College right out of high school.
Well, if it was in 1991, that is in fact 20 years.
I understand.
So is there a
Now I'm
second charge
confused.
here, one when you were 17, one when you were 20?
No, sir. This is my only criminal history I've ever had my whole life.
Okay. More confused. All right. And just clarification for the attorneys. If something's expunged, it then removes it from the CCH as well. It will be deleted off of DLETs and inlets.
That's correct. Generally assuming that everything has been, and I'm not speaking specifically to this case, but generally speaking, if the criminal history information has been, the order has been entered properly, then yes, it should remove it from the criminal history. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that answered my question. Any other questions? Could I ask you to provide us with options on this one?
Absolutely, Commissioner West. As Chief Stevens discussed earlier, Commissioners, we're operating under the new procedure in which a prospective prospective waiver for a disqualifying Class A misdemeanor or perhaps a Class B misdemeanor is brought before the Executive Director. At the Executive Director's level, the Executive Director can either recommend for ratification to you all or deny the request for waiver as submitted by the Chief Administrator. And at that point, it comes before you all, as this one is before you today, as a brand new waiver, just as you've always done it. You are treating this as, you are the appeal process. This is the first time you're hearing it. You have the ability to, number one, approve it or not approve it, or if there is we have done so in the past, whether you need additional information or additional time, whatever the case may be, you have that option and a series of sub-options after that. Those are the main 3 categories. You can approve the waiver as requested by the sheriff, deny the waiver as requested, or make a motion and approve it for additional information or otherwise that you may see fit.
Thank you. See, there's no additional conversations. Entertain a motion in a second. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to stick with the denial of the waiver.
Okay.
That's the appropriate language.
Thank you. You have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'd like to take a roll call vote, top down, please. Before you do the vote, the yes vote is a yes for the denial.
Approving the motion for the denial of the waiver. That's correct.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sines,
Yes.
Commissioner Kreiner,
I recuse myself.
Commissioner Griffin,
Yes.
and Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
We have 6 voting in favor and 1 abstain.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
And gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. I know today did not go the way you were hoping it would go. We appreciate you driving out and putting yourself out, serving the people. And thank you for your time. All right, we're going to move on to the previous agenda item number 18. Discuss and take action to ratify the executive director's presentation and approved misdemeanor waiver of TCOLE Rule 217.1, minimum standards for enrollment and initial licensure for Galveston Police Department Chief Douglas Bally on behalf of Scott Buchanan.
Thank you, Commissioner West and Commissioners. And again, as we'll go through the explanation again, as we've changed, this is one that I approved, and so I've submitted it for your ratification. It perhaps wasn't as straightforward as a lot of them in the past, where typically it's one incident, an isolated incident, if you will. On this one, there was a previous alcohol involved situation when the individual was underage. The incident occurred, but the incident at issue is a Class A misdemeanor DWI. It was 12 years ago. I looked at it from the standpoint that if it was someone already licensed, they would have faced a 10-year suspension, so they would have already been off of that suspension. I took it under through that lens to look at it. The individual was cooperative completely with law enforcement during the interaction. There was no extenuating circumstances. There was no crash. There was no injuries. Nonetheless, very dangerous situation, as we talked about earlier. But all things, when I weighed the aggravating versus mitigating circumstances, it led me to approve the waiver, so I submit it to you for your ratification.
Thank you. And Chief Bally, would you like to come up and speak? Would please state your name and your agency.
Doug Bally, Galveston Police Department. Honorable Commissioners, Executive Director and Directors, thank you for having me and thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Scott Buchanan. Scott is he's a 41-year-old man now. Scott has done a lot to improve his life. He has been working for us, and even through this ordeal has remained very optimistic, remained professional, is in a role working every day very hard in our property room. We just completed a full audit of that, and because we had some issues, he's working very hard. And I think my biggest takeaway from this would be that it was brought to our attention by TCOLE, and from that point forward, I was not sure what to expect. But I'll say this, the communication with our executive director and thank God you have a shining star in Miranda Aguilar. I appreciate the hand holding that she did, assisting me through the waiver process, step by step by step in what was needed, what was required, and how to become successful in this process. I I see you, I see what you're doing, and I sincerely appreciate it. I believe it's been a long time coming. I believe that law enforcement is a profession, and we must be professional, and we must be held to professional standards. And so I see what TCOLE is doing and appreciate it. I stand before you asking you to ratify the request or for the waiver. And I appreciate you and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone have any questions for Chief Bally? Any questions for Executive Director or legal staff? And similar to the options as before.
That's correct.
Looking for entertain a motion and a second on this one.
I make a motion that we ratify the executive director's presentation of the approved misdemeanor waiver of TCOLE rule. Am I reading the right one?
Yeah,
217.14 on behalf of Scott Buchanan.
Second.
A motion, a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Top down, please.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sines,
Yes.
Commissioner Kreiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffin, Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
All 7 voted in favor. Motion passes.
Thank you. And thank you, Chief, for coming and working so hard to get this waiver process completed, and understand you were notified after the fact that something, and it seems that Arizona seems to be the one we see a lot of, because their laws and their reporting is a little cloudy. So maybe we'll create a committee inside of TCOLE just for Arizona stuff. But appreciate your time and driving all the way up here. So that'll bring us to agenda item number 20. And this is to announce the 2027 commission meeting dates and locations. Our executive director.
Thank you, Commissioner West. As we look towards the future, we are got some dates already set along with generic locations, realizing, of course, that that we will be going into a legislative session in 2027, the 90th legislative session. So to enhance strategic planning opportunities, provide greater flexibility for commission business, staff's adopted a quarterly meeting schedule for 2027. If you recall, we had 5 meetings scheduled this year. So we'll be going to a quarterly meeting schedule. Each meeting will be scheduled over 2 consecutive days, allowing time for commission meetings, workshops, training, stakeholder engagement, and other business as needed. Consistent with prior practices, 2 meetings will be held in Austin, and 2 meetings will be held at other regions of the state to increase accessibility and engagement with the law enforcement agencies, licensees, stakeholders across Texas. Our customer base, if you will. Since the 90th legislative session will be underway during the first part of 2027, the March and June meetings, the first 2, we will hold those in Austin to facilitate participation in legislative activities and meetings as were needed here close to the Capitol. So the 2027 meeting schedule will be as follows. March 3rd and 4th of 2027 will be here in Austin. June 2nd and 3rd, 2027 will be here in Austin. And then September 1st and 2nd will be in Midland, Texas. And then December 1st and 2nd, 2027 will be in Galveston, Texas. And if you'll notice, what we're looking at is trying to schedule on our Wednesday, Thursday, the first week of March, June, September, and December. That'll be the schedule we want to try to carry out, and to make it more consistent and more predictable, one for the commission as well as for all of our stakeholder groups, so they can sort of count on that and plan those out. And we look at conferences, we look at all the things that Texas law enforcement does, and this schedule seems to meet that and be stay out of the way of other things. All meetings are scheduled for the first Wednesday and Thursday of the designated month. As I just said, in addition, staff recommended the option to schedule up to 2 additional meeting dates during the year should emergent business, legislative matters, or other time-sensitive issues require commission action outside the regular meeting schedules. Those would be planned according to business needs. I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions or comments for the director? All right, well, entertain a motion and a second to accept these dates as laid out.
I make a motion that we accept the 2027 commission meeting dates and locations as indicated.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes and brings us to agenda item number 21, which is receive public comment on any topic without action. If you would like to speak before the commission on any topic, we'd love to have you come down and speak. Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and move forward then. Brings us to item number 22, which is executive session. Executive session discussed pending or contemplated litigation, settlement offers, and personnel issues, including the evaluation of executive director's job performance pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074. So we will be taking executive session today. So a little logistical changes. Stopping the stream, turn off microphones, and sending everyone in the hallway for a few minutes while we meet. take action. There'll be no action from executive session, so we'll move on to item 24. And before we call for a motion, I just want to say one more time, thank you to TCOLE staff. Every time we come up here, we look like we're super important and get things done, but it's really you guys that get us to this point. So thank you for all the setup and time spent preparing for the meeting and getting us ready to go. We will see y'all in September, which will not be here, so that'll be fun too. So I'll take a motion for adjournment. Anybody? Y'all want to?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We don't have to second or I that one. Awesome. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank y'all.